Hi Year 9, welcome to today's lesson. Today we're learning about how to group data into class intervals. Alright, so this topic is about how are we going to deal when there is so much data. Now, usually when we have a small amount of data, okay, we can organize it easily into a table. We list the scores here, we write the tally and the frequency and sometimes a percent frequency. And then when we go on to displaying this data onto a frequency histogram, whoopsie, rewrite that. So when we display that into a frequency histogram, we would list all the scores below and then draw the columns according to how frequently they occur. But when we have so much data, it will be very hard to list all of the scores, list like how often they appear, and then list all of the scores onto the histogram. Okay, that will take a long time. So that's why there is a technique called grouping them into class intervals. So see it as like there are so many students in a grade and you want to group them into classes, right? So class like A, B, C, D, whatever. Now in this example here, we have a frequency table. What this means is that all of the data lies between 60 and 84, okay? And the classes that we group them into are called class intervals. Usually we group them into groups of 5 or 10, usually. Alrighty, so in the first class, this class contains all scores that lie between 60 and 64, including 60 and 64. The class center is the middle number of the class group. How you find that out is by adding the two ends of the class interval, adding them up, and then dividing them by 2. All right, you add them up, you get 128 divided by 2, you get, 124 divided by 2, and you get 62. So 62 is the middle of 60 and 64. 67 is the middle between 65 and 69. So you can see that these are groups of 5, right? So 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. And the next group, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69. And so on up until you reach 80 to 84. All right, the class center, like I said, is found by adding the two extremes and dividing them by 2. The frequency. So you understand frequency. It is how often a score appears. But right now, it is how often any number in a class interval appears. So I wrote an example here. What this means is that numbers between 60 and 64 appeared 3 times. These numbers are between 60 and 64 and they appeared 3 times. Numbers between 65 and 69 appeared 4 times, as you can see below. So imagine you have like a lot of data down below and you want to organize them into this table. That's how you would do it. Group them into class intervals, write the class interval, calculate the class center, tell me how often they appear, and in the last column, the percent frequency. That is basically the percent of that particular class interval compared to the whole amount of scores. So the number of scores between 60 and 64 appeared 3 times. All right. So I'm just going to write that here, if I can fit it. 3. How many scores were there in total? 25. So out of all the 25 scores, 3 are between 60 and 64. Now to find a percent, always times by 100. And then you get your percent. Okay, so 12%, 16%, and the bottom, these all should add up to 100%, which they do. Alrighty? So this is how we group a lot of data into a more efficient, clean, nicer way. Okay. And once we have organized data, we need to know how to present data. Now, presenting data, most of it is like the frequency histograms that you've learned how to do. Yeah, all the columns are smushed together. You need to have an appropriate scale. You need to have a title. You need to have labels. The label on the y-axis is the same. However, on the x-axis, we call them class centers. And you basically just take your class center and you put them here. Don't forget, there always has to be a gap. And then you state your first class center here, and then you keep listing them. All right? And that is how you deal with class intervals. Here we have example 18, which is also in your theory. This example is showing the number of burgers sold each hour during a 50-hour period. So, for example, in the first hour, 1 burger was sold. In the second hour, 10 was sold. In the third, 18. And you can see that the 50 scores represents the 50 hours. Okay? There are 50-hour slots to show how many burgers were sold in each hour. Now, in our frequency table, we need to have 4 columns: class interval, class center, frequency, and percent frequency. Now look at the numbers. They are between 1, that's the lowest, and the highest looks as though it is 24. Okay, so we're dealing with numbers between 1 to 24. So I would separate these class intervals into groups of 5. And we usually start with 0. Okay, so between 0 and 4, so we can do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 scores. And then from 5 to 9, because 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is 5 scores. Okay, so groups of 5. And then we do 10 to 14, 15 to 19, and then 20 to 24. Let's do it like that. Now the class center, remember we find the class center by adding the 2 ends and dividing by 2. So 0 plus 4 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, 5 plus 9 is 14, 14 divided by 2 is 7, and then 24 divided by 2 is 12, and then that will be 17, and that will be 22. Now we count the frequency. So which numbers lie between 0 and 4? 1, 2, 3, so there's 3. Which numbers lie between 5 and 9? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. Which numbers lie between 10 and 14? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15. How many numbers lie between 15 and 19? 1, 2. Whoops. Nope. That does not lie between 15 and 19. That's my bad. Let's start that again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. All right. How many numbers lie between 20 and 24? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we've counted them all. We need to add the total to make sure that we have added everything correctly. So 3 plus 7 is 10, 15, that is 25, 25 plus 25 is 50, correct. And now we have to find percent frequency. So to find percent frequency, we take our number, our frequency, put it over the total, and we times it by 100. This case, it's 6%. This one is 14%, and you can do the rest, okay? This one is 30%, this one is 38%, and this one is 12%. Add them up to make sure they add up to 100, okay? So 6 plus 14 is 20, 20, that's 50, 50 plus 50 is 100. All right, that's it. And that is our frequency table. Now we move on to the frequency histogram. We've got to draw our, that's question B. This is our Y and X axis. Here is the class centers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll start from here. 2, 7, 12, 17, 22. And then we have our frequencies. The frequencies lie between 3 to 19. So I would go up by probably 2. Maybe that'll be accurate, even though it's a bit cramped. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Actually, I could space that even a bit more. Yeah, 2 was a good idea because it'll give you a bit more accuracy instead of 5. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Two, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. All right. And then we have to label this frequency. Oh, I can't fit it, but that has to be frequency. Okay. I'll just label it here. This is frequency. Okay. And so we draw our columns. Now the class center with 2 has a frequency of 3. So the class center of 2 has a frequency of 3, which is smack bang in the middle here. Remember to leave a gap. The class center with 7 has a frequency of 7. Remember your class centers, like your usual histograms, the scores have to be in the middle of the column. The class center with 12 has a frequency of 15. Like that. Class center of 17 has a frequency of 19. Like that. And the class center of 22 has a frequency of 6. So that is right here. That's it. That is our frequency histogram. All right. Okay, so hopefully that helps you understand how to organize a lot of data into class intervals and then present that into a histogram. So on to the last question of this example. They're asking how many hours did this restaurant sell less than 10 burgers? So we refer to the table or the histogram, but I prefer looking at the table. So we're looking for less than 10 burgers. Now let's remind ourselves that these scores, these are our scores, right? Which we've organized into classes, and they tell us the number of burgers sold each hour. So these tell us number of burgers. So we want to look for less than 10 burgers. If we want to look for less than 10 burgers, we're looking for the class that is less than 10, which refers to this one and this one, because these two groups are the number of burgers sold from 0 to 9. Okay, so because we want less than 10, we've hit those two groups. Now we are looking at the right place, but we need to answer how many hours did they sell less than 10. Now our question tells us that these are the number of burgers during a 50-hour period. So there are 50 scores. 50 is the frequency, right? So if we want to look for hours, we look here. This is the burgers, this is the hours. Okay, because it was a 50-hour period. And because we want less than 10, we want to add these two up. So it took them 10 hours to sell less than 10 burgers. All right, so we say 3 plus 7, that would be your working out, is 10 hours. Next question, how many hours did they sell at least? Now for this question, we wanted less than 10. Now we want at least 15, which is more than equal to 15. That's what it means mathematically. We want to find the group that is more than or equal to 15. And that refers to these groups. See? 15 or more. So it starts from here and it includes this because this is more than 15. Then we add those two frequencies up because remember, we're looking for the hours. And we go 19 plus 6 equals to 25 hours. So it took them 25 hours to sell at least 15 burgers or more. Alrighty, so that's how you would organize, present, and answer questions based on so much data.